a two-time Players' Championship finalist, the former BDO World Trophy champion, England's Lethal Biscuit, James Wilson.
Well, we've just seen a very decent affair between Darius Labanauskas and Jeffrey de Graaf. Labanauskas winning that one 6-4, averaging 97.5. De Graaf going 7 darts into the potential 9-dart leg, and it will take some match-up to follow that, but we've got a couple of players here who are certainly capable of doing it. That man, Brendan Dolan, taking on James Wilson for the right to face Daryl Gurney in the second round tomorrow. Interesting way that the draw has happened there for Gurney, because he's either going to take on his stablemate and friend in James Wilson or his World Cup teammate in Brendan Dolan, so he won't be looking forward to the prospects of either opponent. And Brendan Dolan, the man in green, is enjoying something of a purple patch that has come out of the blue, absolutely out of nowhere, based on his form for the last year or so. A quarter-final and a semi-final in the last couple of Pro Tour events just a few weeks ago, and he qualified for this and the next European Tour event too, so signs that Brendan Dolan may be returning to the kind of form that saw him pick up plenty of titles a few years ago, Rob Malarkey.
Yes, indeed. That's semi-final you referred to there, his first PDC semi-final since April of 2015, when he made the last 4 of the 12 Players' Championship event of that year. Oh, sorry, it was the 12 Players' Championship event of this year that he reached the last 4. It was his first semi-final in something like 3 years or so. Eventually beaten by Peter Wright 6-3, and it came just one day after a run to the quarter-finals as well.
It's Brendan to throw first. Game on.
So a productive weekend for Dolan then. Made around £5,000 for his efforts that weekend. James Wilson too, having something of a good run of late as well on the Pro Tour, with a semi-final and 3 quarter-final appearances in his last 7 events. So 2 players who were in fairly good nick, you have to say, coming into this one.
60.
James Wilson with a decent smattering of European pedigree last year as well. Hasn't really happened for him so far this year on the European circuit. This is only his 3rd European Tour event of
137.
Made the second round in Zwolle last time out, losing to Peter Wright in that one. Lost to Tony Alcinas in the first round of the German Darts Grand Prix.
Well, he was also denied a place at the Austrian Darts Open by Brendan Dolan, a man who he's met 3 times this year.
135.
And he's lost every single one of them, having not lost to Brendan Dolan before this year. 2 meetings before 2018, both won by the artist formerly known as the Jammy Dodger and the Lethal Biscuit.
Yeah, so just 1 win for Wilson so far this year on the European Tour stage. That was against Johan Engström. That win for Dolan in qualifying for Austria ended in a second round defeat in Austria, losing to Ian White. It's his only appearance on the European Tour so far this year for Brendan Dolan, but as you say, Chris, he's suddenly just rediscovered something, and of course teamed up with Daryl Gurney at last weekend's World Cup, although Northern Ireland were beaten 2-1 by Germany in the last 16, having overcome that big scare against Poland in the first round.
Yeah, great game. One of many great games at the World Cup of Darts.
100.
James Wilson, he always enjoys entrance to the stage, doesn't he? But as you said, only 1 win on it this year, so it's like he's enjoying himself until he starts chucking the darts.
93.
And Dolan has
Brendan
5
Dolan,
PDC titles to his
147.
name, but hasn't picked one up since 2014. Now looking at 147 to take this first leg.
99. James, you require 128.
18's the route for this one. Now can go treble 20 for a dart of the bull. That was wayward. And allows Brendan Dolan a way back in.
Brendan, you require 48.
Long way off with the first dart, and the second dart wasn't too much better either. So Wilson with a good chance for a break here with 86 points required. That's more like it. Double 16 then for Wilson. And that's very neat and tidy stuff. A lovely two-dart combination to finish things off.
It's James to throw
and
first.
It's Wilson who breaks.
Game on.
Yeah, that'll settle him down a little. I'm sure he'll be aware of his record against Brendan Dolan this year, because it's not often that you meet the same players that many times in the first half of the season anyway. Obviously for the top ranked players, when they're into the major tournaments, they tend to meet quite often, but for the players in the sort of outside the top 8, top 16,
81.
to meet a player 4 times by early June is quite rare. I'll tell you what, 180s have not been rare so far today.
Yeah, 6 for Labanauskas alone in that previous match. Not too many in the opener, but yeah, there's been a healthy return so far. Some big scores so far today.
140.
And Wilson makes his contribution as well. Wilson, I think, will take a lot of encouragement from the fact he did well here this time, or I said in this tournament last year. It was slightly earlier in the year. It was May
140
when we came to Gibraltar in 2017. But Wilson made the quarter-finals here in Gibraltar last year. That was his best performance on the European Tour. He lost to Darrell Gurney in the quarter-finals. But he did have a few misses as well as the hits. A handful of first-round defeats along the way as well.
James, you require 41.
Possibility for an 11-darter.
And it is an 11-darter. An early break, backed up very convincingly indeed. Wilson looking good so far. He leads by 2.
I was just saying to Dan in the previous match that this tournament in particular, you will get a slightly easier draw, won't you? Because the Gibraltar qualifiers are perhaps the least feared of the European Tour qualifiers. But there have been a few matches that have sprung up some
96
top players together. This is certainly one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, we talked about the Doby-Lennon match later on tonight. Lennon, of course, a finalist in Zwolle on our most recent European Tour event. Chris Doby is a player on the fringes of the top 32.
100.
And a man who's gone deep in Euro Tour events in the past as well. And you look elsewhere and you see Robert Thornton against Christo Rare is another example of
58.
Yeah, 2 relative heavyweights coming together. Good to see Thornton back on the European Tour stage as well. That's in our second match of the evening session from 7 o'clock, 7:15 tonight.
You could look at the players involved today and almost arrange a draw on seedings, couldn't you? But it seems to have gone the other way, where perhaps some of the less fancied players to go a lot deep in the tournament have drawn each other.
Yeah. Only one of the Gibraltar qualifiers in action this afternoon. The other 3 play in the evening session. It's Roy Asquez who takes on the Austrian Hannes Schneer. I think that's a classic example of, like you say, 2 less illustrious players coming together in the first round.
Followed by Tony Alcinas against Steve West. The other side of the spectrum.
Oh. 170.
The reason they play the matches doesn't always go how you might expect it would on paper.
140.
Lovely setup from Brendan Dolan. 170 to leave himself 32. Now, can he do a little bit better than he did the last couple of attempts at this target? Usually his friend.
Game shot on the third leg.
He's his friend again now.
Fourth leg is James to throw first. Game on.
Yeah, good approach play by Dolan during the course of that one. Just a hold of throw, so no real alarm for James Wilson, just looking to get himself back on track here with a solid start
96.
on his throw at the start of this fourth leg.
Well, he's averaging around 100 after 3 legs. James Wilson. So Brendan Dolan knows that he needs to raise his game to the kind of level that saw him reach the latter stages of those 2
58.
Players' Championship events in Milton Keynes last month.
$134.
Wilson, a player who came very close to claiming his maiden PDC title in the final Players' Championship event of last year. Made his second Pro Tour final that weekend, only to lose to
85.
Johnny Clayton. That success came hot on the heels of a run to the semi-finals of another Players' Championship event in Dublin when he lost to Mensel. And all of that was a run of form similar to the one he had towards the end of 2016 as well. He seems to come good in the latter stages of the year. That was the 2016, I should say, was the year he made the European Championship quarter-finals as well, and made the semis of one of these European Tour events in Riesa too. So maybe we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Better from James Wilson.
140.
He nearly won a title because he must not be able to help thinking, what if? Because you see his stablemate Daryl Gurney picked up a Pro Tour title last year, went on to win the World Grand Prix. The man who did win that title, Johnny Clayton, went on to win a European Tour event this year.
Yeah. I mean, relatively speaking, given the number of darts players in the world, there's only a relative few who have got this, you know, a PDC ranking title under their belt. And I think it's, you know, once you've got one, I mean, Daryl Gurney made the point, once you've got one, you feel like you belong a little bit more.
Yeah,
and it does take the pressure off.
He felt the floodgates could open. Hasn't quite been the case, but he did pick up a huge title in Dublin. That's a slip from James Wilson.
70. And then you
open the door for Brendan Dolan to walk through.
So tops to level things up for Dolan.
58.
And they are the
And
sorts of
you've
chances
got
where he
20.
cannot afford to pass up. Wilson looking to re-establish his lead of 2 legs here with a double 10 checkout.
Just seemed to spring up a little bit on the final dart towards double top there, Brendan Dolan. That may have caused him to
15.
kind of over-adjust
required
and go
20.
low.
But he has got another chance with Wilson fluffing his lines on double 10 and then double 5.
Oh, the old go start. Has it done the trick? The golfer's practice swing.
So far it hasn't.
10. James, you require
Looks to
5.
be at times struggling for a bit of rhythm, Brendan Dolan. That's not the first time that's happened today, where he's had to just readjust. As he said, there was a bit of awkwardness about his previous visit as well.
I wonder if the imaginary dart went in.
I think
Brendan's
it did.
mind.
It was plumb. Double 2 for Wilson.
It was always
3
going to be
score.
tricky, wasn't it? It kind of
And then you require 10.
blocked half the bed, didn't move. And that may have cost him. Dolan has another chance here. He's going to go inside. Wants to be with this dart, because if he does it now, he won't get another.
Yeah, very cagey first 2 darts there, you can see, and the
No
third one was
score.
also way off the mark as well.
You require
Well, he's got to
2.
attack with dart 1, isn't it, in that situation? Opposite scenario for James Wilson here.
No score.
And that is exactly
Well,
what's
you
come to
require
pass.
10.
Well, Dolan here effectively could have a 24 dart break of throw, and I think that just about sums up this leg, really.
Yeah, break of throw. Looks like he just wants a break. Brendan Dolan as he reapproaches the hockey. For the 8th time in this leg. High.
Lower.
Game shot on
Better.
the 4th leg. Brendan Dolan.
It is a 24 dart break of throw for Brendan Dolan,
Look at
and
Brendan
he looks
to
a little
throw
bit
first.
sheepish about claiming that one as well, but they all count and it's 2 apiece. Almost apologised there as he turned round, just looking to G himself up here. Dolan throwing first.
Yeah, Wilson didn't really engage in that then, but I wonder what you do think when your opponent's saying, oh, that was rubbish, but he has added a leg. Doesn't matter, does it? Same number of legs won, however many darts it takes.
100.
Well, the average of Wilson has dipped alarmingly now. You said it was about 101 not too long ago, embellished by the fact he was 2 from 2 on his doubles. He's now 2 from 8, and the average has dipped alarmingly to 86 or so. There we see. First 9 average, not a problem. It's the finishing for Wilson over the last couple of legs that's let him down.
Well, Brendan Dolan's accuracy is a worry here, because not only the darts at double were high and not handsome, some of the attempts at treble have been closer to the double top.
Well, actually, he didn't have a dart or a double in the third leg either, so it was all the damage done there in that fourth leg. I don't think Wilson will care too much about the stats. I think this is just the sort of match that you want to just get through, negotiate, and then learn from, build upon for tomorrow.
100.
Going into the second round, which features the 16 seeded players who join the fun tomorrow. Headed, of course, by the world #1 Michael van Gerwen, looking for a 25th European Tour title this weekend, looking for the quarter century. He's a 2-time champion here as well. Michael Smith, the defending champion, is seeded #2 this weekend. Peter Wright is here as well, #3. Mensur Suljovic, a finalist here last year, also in the frame as well. James Wade amongst the seeds once more.
55.
Yeah, we mentioned in the previous match that because of the little break, we've seen a kind of reshuffle in the seedings for this and the tournament coming up in Copenhagen. All live on PDC TV, of course, with a Players' Championship doubleheader in Wigan sandwiched in between.
Well, this is the start of effectively a really important build-up to the World Match Play. There's so much at stake in terms of places up for grabs for Blackpool. It's this tournament, Denmark, and those 2 Pro Tour events you mentioned that will contribute to the
40.
Final standings for the World Match Play. The 16 seed, or the top 16 in the world, and then the next best 16 on the Pro Tour order of merit.
Yeah, we've got 3 European Tour events this month. Hamburg, of course, at the end of the month, and then they're straight to Barnsley as well in midweek. Plenty of action
56.
on PDC TV,
Right,
but James Wilson
106.
not hitting plenty of doubles.
Yeah, he's found it, so he needs double 16 for a 106 checkout.
74.
Yeah, ooh, says Brendan Dolan.
Require 20.
But it was in this area that Wilson got into all sorts of bother earlier on. He's splitting. But he isn't hitting.
Right, then you require 32.
Yeah, clear change of tack for James Wilson. Didn't want to get bogged down in the double 5 scenario again. Didn't want to run the risk of coming inside on double 5, so split it for double 4 instead, but all to no avail. Dolan now looking at double 16 again. And he tucks that one. He doesn't even realise it's in, but it is in. He seems totally surprised by that, but it just lands inside the top corner.
Game on.
Kurt Bevins had called it, but still Dolan didn't believe it. Last 2 legs, Brendan Dolan's turned this match around and apologising for winning 1 because it took him 8 visits to the board to do so.
135.
And that one, he didn't even realise he'd hit the double. He's not exactly exuding confidence here, Brendan Dolan.
But he has turned this around. 3 legs on the bounce for the 44-year-old from County Fermanagh.
131.
James Wilson here representing
85.
Huddersfield, a fine town in West Yorkshire. Premier League football town.
$54.
There's World Cup football coming up soon, but they'll have to go some to match the drama that we saw at the World Cup of Darts. Hashtag real World Cup.
Well, the Dutch won't be winning that one.
60.
Michael van Gerwen teaming up with Barney for what was his 13th title of 2018.
Yeah.
He's got this target of emulating the 26 he won a couple of years ago.
Probably one of the reasons why he's here.
64.
Might have when he's realised that he's on course to break the record, might have just made a few changes to the amount of tournaments that he planned to play in.
Yeah, I think so. Wasn't here last year.
137.
Spent some time, of course, preparing for the World Cup with the Dutch national football team, Michael van Gerwen. Not sure if he took his boots or his darts.
Well, the way they're playing at the moment, he might have outshone a few of them as well. Sure, our Dutch production crew will not mind me saying that, and Brendan Dolan won't mind that 180 either.
84.
Pressure on this for Wilson now, this 84.
Yeah,
but what pressure?
Leg, James Wilson.
What pressure for James Wilson?
Something like it's Brendan to throw first. Game on.
Big leg that for James Wilson. Could so easily have found himself 4-2 down. As it is, he's stopped the rot. He's just stopped Dolan in his tracks there. It's back on terms at 3 apiece. And that was more like it from James Wilson.
Yeah, Dolan also seems to have found his range the last couple of visits, 180, 140, and that's after visits earlier in the match where the darts were miles away from the treble.
99.
Now we can assure you that the length of hockey and height of the board is always exactly the same, but there are different kind of optical illusions that can get into players' heads. And
95.
Friday afternoon in Gibraltar is one of the more poorly attended sessions of European Tour action. And perhaps it just feels a little bit more spacious out there. It takes a while to kind of get used to the...
Yeah, the atmospherics can certainly play a part, there's no doubt about that. It's a very warm day today in Gibraltar. Highs of around 24, 25 degrees. It's very warm on stage as well. Michael Barnard was perspiring heavily in that opening match.
Very different tournament, is it, to the rest of the European Tour events, but a very important one last year because it could well have been the decisive factor in Michael Smith getting a Premier League spot.
Well, that was...
125.
Again, it's something that has served as a springboard for other players as well. We mentioned Jamie Lewis seems to like playing here as well. Maybe a chance for him to really get going this year, the World Championship semi-finalist. He's had some good runs here in the past as well, but it has been a springboard for... Well, it's been an opportunity for players to just inject something into their careers or their seasons. Not just Michael Smith, but James Wade certainly in 2014 as well when he came good here.
Yep, nice setup from Brendan. Is it tops here? It was what he attempted.
97.
But not executed.
Require 40.
Well, this one is wide open. It's very, very difficult to predict even now which way this one is going to go.
Yeah, shot on the 7th leg.
And it looks as though Wilson might be coming good. Dolan just comes back with another response.
Game on.
May well be on course for our first 11-leg match of the day.
Yep, 6-3 Barnard against Ratajski, 6-4 Labanauskas against de Graaf, so it's following that trend. We'll go 6-5 and then 6-0, 6-1, 6-2.
$123.
Well, that first dart was so far over to the left-hand side of the treble 20 bed. I think he overcompensated there, went into the treble 1 and then came back to good effect for a good recovery. That was
59.
Effective play by Brendan Dolan. It was a good recovery shot. Big visit here might just make life a bit more difficult. Once again, he's just strayed over. Perhaps thought he had too much room on that right-hand side, and he's overcompensated again by landing in the treble 5. Missed opportunity there for Dolan, I think.
92.
George Noble taking a well-earned breather as well. Kurt Bevins on duty for this one, and our next match, which features Matt Padgett and Mike De Decker. There again, first dart right over to the left-hand side of that treble 20 bed. Plenty of room for one more if you can just use that second dart to good effect.
100.
But again, he's overpitched it.
Yeah, it's almost a lucky dart, that though, isn't it? Because you're not aiming there, are you? Aiming right dead centre. That's a better dart from James Wilson, but
56.
scored 40 points fewer.
Big visit here from Dolan, though, again, will put the pressure back on. Could do with a couple of trebles here to do that. And once again, he's into that left-hand side. He's got lots to work with, but
100.
Again, not able to back it up.
154.
Treble 18. Double top for a huge one.
134. Brendan, you require 100.
Wilson misses. Will he come back?
Yeah, there might be one or two audible distractions behind us today, but we'll do our best. Brendan Dolan looking at a son here.
It's not an unhappy James Wilson fan in the background, I assure you of that.
60.
Slamming things around.
It's actually the delivery of some much-needed water. Truckload of liquid has arrived here. Hopefully that's for us. Double 10 for Wilson. Back on terms at 4 apiece. Missed opportunity for Dolan for a 5-3 lead. There were chances there for him.
Well, we could start this leg by saying exactly what you said at the start of the last one, Rob, that we are no closer to knowing the outcome of this tie.
140.
Maybe Brendan Dolan has decided he's going to start aiming for that top corner of the treble 20 and working his way across. That's a perfect dart for James Wilson.
That's the way to do it, Wilson.
140.
Yeah, the accuracy of these top professional darts players, they do aim for certain sections of even the treble. It's Phil Taylor used to aim low in the bed, didn't he, to try and stack on top. A lot of players will aim just underneath the top wire. Use the dart as a guide to get underneath and fill it up.
$60.
You just saw there a low first start from James Wilson, made it difficult for him to find the treble 20. Might have been better off switching.
60.
Just following each other, aren't they? When they're both on the range on the trebles, and then when one loses it, the other one seems to go off the boil. This time he does switch. Accurately too.
95.
Again, that first dart way over to the left-hand side, but he does find it with the third dart again. It's been a, not quite a recurring theme, but it's been a small feature of Dolan's match so far.
100.
He was on the brink of a 3-0 deficit earlier on when we had that crazy third leg, which he won in 24 darts. Now he's on the brink of a 5-4 lead.
$56. Change you require 106.
Well, chance here for Wilson. I suspect he may look at 18s first here. He wants to go down the double 16 route. Well,
now he can go across to that target, but couldn't find it.
58.
But Brendan might
require 60.
Hope that if this first dart goes anywhere in the big 20, it does go across to the left and leaves him plenty of room at double top, because his darts do stand up a little. If he gets it dead centre, it's tricky. He's got it dead centre. He only has about half the bed to aim at.
On the ninth leg,
right on
Brendan
top.
Dolan.
Used it somehow as a guide. Superb stuff from Brendan Dolan.
Game on.
And again, he looked a little bit even surprised when he found the target there, but he suddenly finds himself just one leg away from the second round of the Gibraltar Darts Trophy. His campaign began in the qualifying round against Aidan Kirk, 6-4. He won that one. Dawson Michelle of Canada was his final victim in qualifying in Milton Keynes a few weeks ago. The flossing Dawson now, following his antics at the World Cup recently. James Wilson had a fairly tough encounter against Ryan Searle in his final match in qualifying.
100.
Beating the former Challenge Tour player 6-5.
Will we be indulging in some flossing this evening, Robert?
I think I might put that on hold. I'll leave that to those who are better qualified, I think. The likes of Dawson and Dawson Michelle, not Dan Dawson.
Party had a go, didn't he? Old John Part, but he didn't seem to quite get the gist of it.
The execution wasn't there. I think he sort of lost his way a little bit.
100.
Dawson never needs too much encouragement, though, does he, to give things a go like that? And
we saw Kim Hybrex doing a little routine with Dimitri as well.
60.
World Cup of Dance. Brendan Dolan just hoping to stumble over the line, but James Wilson seems to be allowing him to do so.
140.
That will help, but still here. If Dolan can find just one treble, he'll be down to a finish first. Despite the 140, a dozen darts thrown, and Wilson can't go out when he returns. And the treble is found. And followed with one more.
Good shape here now.
Yep.
93. Where then you require 101.
101, and it is for the match. If he does clean it up, he might not be quite sure how. Well, it's going to be a funny way of doing it.
Might well do it, though. Tops for Dolan.
61.
May well get another chance. Had a 6-4 win in his opening round in Graz. Still on course for a 6-4 win here, unless Wilson can respond with 1-2-2. Stay there. Well, he needed that for the bullseye, but he's missed the target. And Wilson looks absolutely furious with himself because Dolan has been gift-wrapped another opportunity here. 3 darts at tops for a 6-4 win for the 44-year-old from County Fermanagh. And a place in round 2 here in Gibraltar. Inside for double 10.
Shot.
And just when it looks as though the anxious times might still be on course here for Brendan Dolan, he comes through and he survives a very, very tough examination against James Wilson to book his place in round 2 here in Gibraltar. A winning start for the history maker. James Wilson will feel as though he had his opportunities. It just never really happened for him today. It took him a while to get going, especially after Dolan hit back so well early on. That 24-dart break perhaps setting the tone when Dolan levelled things up at 2 apiece, but Wilson then really never got going after that. And a shake of the head from Lethal Biscuit as he prepares to make his way home. Looks pretty disappointed with himself, you have to say as well, but we'll grab a quick word with Brendan Dolan now. Just a reminder, the next match for you, Matt Patchett against Mike De Decker. Here is Brendan Dolan.
Congratulations. Thanks, Dan. Tricky looking draw against James there, but you found a way to win it.
I scrapped through it. That was an unbelievably hard draw to play James. I know how well James has been playing this last 2 years. That's why he is where he is in the rankings. And I've been struggling 2 years. So to beat James, it's unbelievable. And, you know, I get to play Darrell now. And it's not, you know, it wasn't ideal for James and it wasn't ideal for me, you know, to draw to play Darrell because both of us is great mates with Darrell and it's going to be tough. It's about getting your head into the right space. But James is a gentleman and I'm just glad to beat him at the minute.
There's no friends on stage, Brendan. I know you're World Cup of Darts partners. I know he's a mate, but you're going to rip his head off tomorrow, aren't you? That's the plan.
That's the plan. Plans is made to be broken, but my plan is to rip Darrell's head off. But I think Darrell's plan is to rip my head off as well. So don't get me wrong. Me and Darrell get up here and we'll do a professional job. And please God, at the end of it, I come out a winner.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brendan Dolan, a winner here at the Gibraltar Darts Trophy, will take on the Grand Prix champion, Darrell Gurney, tomorrow.